Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for being here, shooting a thumbs up, hitting subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. So it is very early Monday morning. I'm using StreamYard for this, so it's probably going to say something crazy like streamed 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, or whatever. I have no idea what time this video is going to drop, to be quite honest with you. And it's on my end. It's not YouTube. I can't blame them today, but it is what it is. I got to get it in, right? So the Super Bowl was last night, and I didn't watch it. I don't really care for it. I know some of you do, and that's okay. I'm not here to call you out, or anything like that. But the reason I bring this up is the news cycle. Of course, it's all about Super Bowl. It's the day after the Super Bowl, right? So we got a lot of other important stuff happening here in the United States of America. Now, again, maybe the Super Bowl is important to you. I don't know. But I know who won and all this. But other than that, whatever. We have important stuff. We have adult stuff happening here in the United States of America. And so I bring this up because I've basically had to go through the news cycle and eliminate stories. The top 3 or 4 stories have to do with the Super Bowl. And let me explain to you what's been trending this weekend outside of the Super Bowl, because that, of course, got a lot of attention. A lot of people were focused on the Super Bowl instead of the other stuff. So, trending on Sunday morning was WW3. This is probably the 19th or 20th time the WW3 has trended under Joe Biden. I'm just throwing that out there, okay? But this actually stems from Trump. He made a comment about NATO, and it's nothing that we haven't heard before, but of course, it's a big story because it's the election cycle. NATO countries not paying their dues and not paying their fair share. And he was asked directly, what if a country doesn't pay its fair share? Are we going to go in and defend it? And he said, no. He encourages whatever happens in Europe to these countries if they're not willing to pay. Because, again, he's making the argument the United States pays too much, which I agree with. Trending this morning, other than the Super Bowl, is the Great Depression. Oh, what a weekend. WW3, the very next day, the Great Depression. And this comes on the heels of Joe Biden, who made a comment. I think he put out a tweet or whatever it's called on the X now. He's the best jobs president since the Great Depression. And so this has led to a lot of back and forth, of course, on social media between the sympathizers of Biden who are still riding with Biden and beating that drum. Oh my God, he's created so many jobs. And then, you know, people that live in the real world who see day to day, oh, the economy's jacked up. If he's created jobs, it's because people need to work extra jobs just to pay their bills, their basic bills. And then we had a couple of other things happening this weekend. There was an event at Osteen's Lakewood Church. I feel really bad about this, but when I first heard that news, I thought, here's the false one that we've been anticipating. I don't think that it was. It turns out to be, just a localized event. I still don't know all the details on that, but it could have been much, much worse. Thank God it wasn't. And the Black Death is here. The bubonic plague, first case has popped up in Oregon. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Again, what a weekend. We have this event at Osteen's Church. We have the Black Death appearing once again in Oregon. And of course, we have WW3 trending on social media. And we have the Great Depression trending on social media. But we have everybody distracted by the Super Bowl. That's just this weekend's chaos. And you hate to be the gloomer and doomer. I really thought about doing a different video today, but it's been on my heart since yesterday. Since I saw the World War III talk on social media. You hate to be the gloomer and doomer, but you look at America's problems, and then you look at the solutions that have been introduced thus far, and you begin to realize it's over. Again, I hate to be the gloomer and doomer. I know some people, uh, they want to hear what they want to hear and they want to stay optimistic. Oh, and it's never over. And that, and I respect that. I really do, staying optimistic. But at some point, the writing's on the wall and you've got to come to terms with it. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the issues our country is going through and again, the solutions that have been introduced. $33 trillion national debt. The solution is to print more money. It's not really a solution. That's throwing cake at the wall and hope that it sticks for a little while. It's not going to fix anything. The border chaos. We all know what's happening with the border, right? The solution right now seems to be point fingers back and forth. Both wings, left and right, pointing at each other. This is the equivalent of an airplane crashing and the pilot and the co-pilot pointing fingers and playing the blame game. And nobody's trying to correct course. Nobody's trying to safely land the plane. It's the pilot's fault. It's the co-pilot's fault. It's Biden's fault. It's Trump's fault. Doesn't matter whose fault it is. At this point, it's a huge freaking issue in this country, and it's not being dealt with. Increased crime. What is the solution here? Catch and release. You know, honestly, let's be real for a second. Certain crimes are not even being called by their actual names anymore. You can't call criminals criminals in certain cases. If they come from certain neighborhoods where, poverty is an issue, going in and robbing a store is no longer going in and robbing a store. We've got to become social workers now, and we've got to go to the root cause and find out why somebody felt like they needed to do such a thing and then release them back out into the public. Inflation, the solution is denial, apparently. The White House they still deny it. Biden put out some ridiculous post this weekend talking about shrinkflation and badgering companies because companies don't want to lose money. They can't stay in business without shrinking the product because stuff costs so much now. And rather than own up to it and say inflation is real and we need to do something about this, again, denial and the blame game. The fentanyl crisis. What is the solution here? Seems to be to look the other way, pretend like it's not happening. And it's a huge issue and it's happening throughout the country and nobody's talking about it. Nobody is really talking about it. They talk about how it comes across the border, but they're not talking about how it's an actual issue throughout the country. In bigger cities, it's a huge problem. And they want to look the other way. They want to take the people that are addicted to the drugs, put them over here so they're out of sight, out of mind, and pretend like there's not a problem. That's not an actual solution. So this morning, I'm going to name the video, It's Time to Circle the Wagons. And hopefully nobody finds that term offensive. I know there's a select few that may find that offensive because it does deal with the old west and stuff, but I don't mean it in an offensive way. Circle the wagons just means we need to accept the threats that are out there. We need to come to terms with reality because I think a lot of people have not come to terms with reality. All right. Well, Trump and Carlson, they can fix it. Imagine if we have 12 years of Trump and then Carlson, then what? You understand? Then what? Our country, let's take a beautiful 57 Chevy. Really nice looking cars, right? Back in their prime. When they rolled off the assembly line, man, these things were just pristine. Again, some of the nicest looking vehicles you've ever seen. When you find one out in the wild now, typically it's rusted down to the ground. All right. I mean, it's just been let go. Occasionally, if you're lucky, you might stumble upon one that's garage kept, but it's rusted down to the ground. It's almost unfixable. All right. That's the United States. It's an analogy, folks. Can it be restored back to its pristine condition? Yes. somebody that knows what they're doing. They have the passion to restore it. They have the money and they have the support at home. Yes, they can take that rusted down piece of junk and turn it back into this immaculate vehicle that it once was. The issue is, and the reason that I believe it's over here in the United States, y'all can debate me if you want to in the comments. Nobody in government seems to want to fix it. They seem to want to line their pockets for 8 years, 10 years, and skate on back out and get rich in the process. Nobody has passion to fix the country. And even if, I know a lot of you are Trumpers and that's fine, but even if Trump is there for 4 years, then what? Then what? He's not going to have the funding he needs to restore the United States of America back to the country that we remember. And even if he did, after his term is over, they're just going to come back in and rust it back down to the ground. Our government is not in the business of trying to repair this country. They don't care. And when the people that are running things do not care, it is over. And we need to come to grips with that this morning. So here's another reason. And this is the biggest reason. When I saw this, I said it's over. All right. All of the other issues, bad enough. But if you have a dedicated group of people at the top and they're passionate about fixing the country, okay, maybe. Now it's over. 41% increase since 2022 at the northern border. Illegals coming across the border. All right. Invasion at the southern border. Now we're beginning to see the barbarians, if you will, overrun the northern border. They say New York, Vermont, New Hampshire are the 3 that are getting hit the hardest. A lot of these people are trying to make their way to fly over America. North Dakota, Wyoming, South Dakota, that entire area. Okay, Nebraska. So it's time to circle the wagons. Here's what I mean by that, okay? Back in the day when people were going out west, a lot of them were maybe Mormons or they were just families trying to survive, the dangers of the old west. They were trying to get out west, but there's strength in numbers. At night, when it was most dangerous, they would circle the wagons, right? And they would tell everybody that was with them, stay inside the wagons. We'll run the fire all night. We'll keep it going. We'll have people guarding the perimeter. As long as you're in here, we can take care of you. You go outside, the wagon circle, you're on your own. We can't protect you at this point. So this is just an analogy for bunkering in as much as possible with your people. If you don't have your people established, you need to do that now because you are running out of time. You need to sit down, make out a list of the people that you anticipate are going to show up at your house. Invited or not, folks. If you have extended family and you know those people are coming, you have to ask yourself, is it going to be easier for me to run them away, sticking a boomstick in their face and hope for the best, or go ahead and bring them in and assign them duties and jobs and things, okay? You need to avoid being exposed to dangerous situations. Super Bowl is it's an ideal example. Nothing big happened. Again, thank God last night. But there was chatter that it might. The Lakewood Church. Folks, when bad things are happening in a church, at that point, it can happen anywhere, right? But these things seem to happen where lots of people are gathered, and that's the issue. You need to take inventory of what you have and also make a list of the things that you still need. Because I'm telling you, 2024 is probably the last year that you're going to be able to prep in a normal world. Today is as good as it gets. Moving forward again, hate to be the doomer gloomer, but I'm being a realist this morning. Society right now is still partially intact. That ain't going to be the case for much longer. This is just the feeling that I have this morning, the vibe that I have. There's nowhere left to hide. Let me just mention this before I close it down. People seem to have this attitude. Well, if it gets bad enough in my state, if I'm in Oregon, I'll just move somewhere else. I'll just move somewhere else. We're running out of places to run and hide. People need to understand this. Florida is not going to be safe forever. Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, it's not going to be safe forever. Oklahoma, Texas. The threat is coming, folks. The threat is on the way. And I just want to close up by saying pray for what's left of the United States of America. I don't know how much longer we keep it together. I don't know how much longer this country stays intact before everything implodes, so to speak. And realistically, a lot of people that are watching this and hearing this may not make it through that, because when we see this collapse happen, this societal collapse, it's not going to be a good thing to see. And people need to understand that moving forward. So just pray for the country if you're the praying sort. Y'all take care and God bless.